Hi, I'm Jacob Scott. I'm a software engineer at Stripe, and I'm excited to talk to you about SLOs as one course in a reliability tasting line. This is a wonderful photo of the meal at Single Thread, a 3 Michelin-star restaurant in Healdsburg, California. As you might guess from my edits to the photo and the title of my talk, I see SLOs as one dish in the tasting menu that is our overall approach to reliable systems and happy users. In this talk, I'll focus on SLOs and another course in the reliability tasting menu, incidents. My goal with this talk is to spark your curiosity. This is a very deep topic, and I hope to sketch a small portion of it well enough to inspire you to dig in further. To start, we can ask a simple question. If your SLOs are all green, will you have an incident next week? We'd clearly like the answer to be no. This would mean that healthy SLOs are sufficient for our reliability needs. Unfortunately, and I think unsurprisingly, my answer is maybe. Let's use a concrete incident to see why this is. On January 4th of this year, Slack went down for an hour. If we assume Slack has a 4 nines SLO, that consumes over a year of their error budget. Now, this incident is super interesting, and Laura Nolan, an engineer at Slack, put together a fantastic write-up that I highly recommend reading. A very high-level summary might be that overload of a networking component caused cascading failures in auto-scaling, provisioning, and observability systems, and resulted in this hour of customer-perceived downtime as engineers work to debug and mitigate. We can ask, what SLOs would have helped mitigate this incident? I claim none, because SLOs are retrospective, not predictive. That is, they tell us about the history of our service, not the future. SLOs don't invalidate Richard Cook's observation that in complex systems, catastrophe is always just around the corner. Catastrophe, or for our purposes major incidents, can be viewed as perfect storms when many conditions, for example, user workload, AWS bugs, which senior engineers are on vacation, latent bugs in our own product code, all combine to create a major failure and problem. The snafu catchers group labeled this sort of interaction dark debt, and it's particularly challenging because it's incredibly difficult to spot before it shows up in incidents. So how can you put an SLO in dark debt or unknown unknowns? I don't think that you can. If we revisit Slack's outage, we can see potential dark debt. If we go back to late December, how much problematic interaction did Slack's talented infrastructure engineers think was possible between dashboards, transit gateways, provisioning, and autoscaling? My guess is not much. So what can be predicted is learning from incidents. This diagram is from an article on incidents, incident analysis, and chaos engineering by Dr. Laura McGuire. We can see how observing the system and incident analysis helps us better understand system behavior, which in turn helps us better navigate our perfect storms. This helps us grapple with the dark debt and unknown unknowns from a few slides ago. So I do want to echo and stress an observation from Alex Ellman, an SRE at Indeed, that this cycle is about learning and adapting, not preventing and fixing. The next big incident won't be the same as the last one. So this is about incorporating an updated understanding into our whole development and operations lifecycle, not making sure this incident never happens again. My pitch then is that we want both SLOs and learning from incidents. That is, we want both the crisp, quantitative, stoplight perspective that SLOs can give us, and also the qualitative perspective that we get from centering the experience of humans involved in incidents. When you find yourself really surprised or disappointed at a poor reliability outcome, incident or otherwise, ask yourself how it made sense to the humans involved at the time. Because you're evaluating an outcome, you have the benefit of hindsight, which they did not. Your coworkers probably didn't show up to work hoping to make your users unhappy, but their actions did have unintended consequences. You can learn a tremendous amount from exploring how it made sense at the time. If you're new to learning from incidents, I recommend taking a look at the Adaptive Capacity Labs blog, as well as the community site, learningfromincidents.io. I've also put together a Twitter list of folks in the greater community. I think listening in on the conversation happening on Twitter is a great way to learn. To conclude, thank you for watching, and special thanks to all the folks whose work my talk built on top. You can find materials for this talk at SLOconf.dumpsterfire.wtf. jobs at Stripe at, unsurprisingly, stripe.com/jobs. And you can follow me on Twitter at jacobscott. I hope you'll participate in Slack Q&A, which may have already started. Thanks again, and have a great conference.